Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to our inaugural podcast. You are watching or listening to the 1 Point Safety Show with Scouse and Scott. Thanks for joining us. This is a brand new inaugural podcast for UK Washington Commanders fans and Commanders fans all around the world, really, as well as Europe. But we're here to talk to you from a UK perspective about our beloved Washington Commanders. I'm Scott Hartley, one of your hosts, and joining me is my co-host, Andy Lockhart. Say hello, Andy.
Hi, Scott. Hi, guys. How you doing?
So really, we're just going to take you through what we thought about the last game, the up-and-coming game, and we're going to go through a few other bits and pieces on this podcast. It should be a short and sweet podcast, and we hope you enjoy it. So, Andy, do you want to tell the listeners and viewers out there a little bit about yourself and what made you become a Washington Commanders fan?
Well, it was all stemming from my brother, really. He's about 13 years older than myself, and obviously in the 80s, the Redskins at the time were very good. And as you normally do, if you got no true affiliation to a team, normally you'd normally pick a good team at the start, don't you? Normally, and this is what my brother did. Unfortunately, he gave me 30 years of pain, but it is what it is.
We've got to hope it gets better, though, haven't we? That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've been realistically, I was only about 9 when we last won the Super Bowl, so I didn't really remember it too much. So kind of like, yeah, so not really enjoyed that kind of winning feeling really for all this time. So what old am I? 30, well, nearly 20 years now. 39 next.
Wow.
Actually, this weekend. Actually, my birthday this weekend.
Wow. Well, happy birthday. So yeah, me and Andy, we live, or Scouse as he's better known. You may have seen him on other podcasts, moonlighting as with myself. We live about 2 hours, 2 and a bit hours apart, so we're not too far, just in the northwest of the UK. My fandom really started probably around about 2004 is when I started knowing a little bit more about NFL. I was based with some American servicemen. And they were heavily into American football. I didn't really like the game at the time. Came through rugby and obviously our football or soccer, as we call it. Started playing Madden with some friends, and then obviously it became bigger and bigger. Started going to Super Bowls, and then really in 2011, I watched a Redskins match at the time. We were playing the Giants, plucky underdogs, 21 points down, and we won it 24-21. At that point, I thought, oh, I'm going to look out for these. Really like the color scheme, nothing more than that. And then in that following draft, we drafted RG3 or RG Knee, as he's known to some. And from there, I pinned my colours to the mast, and it has been pretty much downhill ever since, really, Andy. Not a good time for either of us in our fandom at the moment.
You're not wrong.
No, I know. So let's talk a little bit about the last game we saw then last weekend against the Minnesota Vikings at FedEx Field. FedEx Field was jumping, and we got the news about Dan Snyder looking to potentially sell the team. Firstly, what are your thoughts on the sale of the team then?
Well, I think like every Washington fan's going to be really happy with that. We've had 30 years of obscurity, awful leadership, just kind of like just awful working practices basically for the ladies, especially the ladies, but obviously even for the other guys as well in the locker room as well. Dan was always getting involved, messing things up, undermining head coaches. So and players always took advantage of that. Speaking of like RG Knee, for example. Mm-hmm. So and I just he just needs to be gone. Like every other day, there's always something new about Dan Snyder, especially over the past kind of like 18 months, 2 years. It's been nearly every day there's something new. There's something else that's come out about him, or there's something else about, and it's actually just draining. As a fan, it's just draining to keep listening to the same stuff, and just everyone just moaning on Twitter about it, and it's just like, really, like, can't we just get rid of this dude now? Forget like 6 months. 6 months is too long for me. He needs to go now. You know what I mean? So, but obviously we've got to put up with him until we can get rid. But yeah,
So are your thoughts then that are your thoughts definitely that he's going to sell the full team, or do you think this is a little bit of a play for a minority stake then?
Well, knowing Dan is probably for a minority stake just to try and stick another finger up at us, but I think the NFL have got him by the nads really.
Yeah, Sean Curley's now.
Yeah, because when Dan bought the team off the other two owners, like was it last year? I think it was last year. The actual NFL were the ones who actually funded that money. So basically, really, Dan kind of owns all of it, but really, the NFL own 40% of it.
Right.
See what I mean? So basically, they will just bend him and keep bending him until he gives up. And basically, until he gives up, until they get an owner that they want more than what Dan wants.
And do you think that will happen then? The NFL will, they will clearly have a preferred candidate for the role. I mean, I know the guy who tried to buy the Denver Broncos, Byron, his surname escapes me at the moment. Byron Allen, thank you very much. Yeah, he is obviously already in the mix and the media are talking about him. Do you have a potential owner that you would look to or hope to have, or does it not really matter? Is it anyone other than Dan for you?
Well, I mean, everyone's always going on about Bezos and Jay-Z kind of a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's
I agree with you. I think there's genuine something there. There's genuinely something there.
There's interest, but Bezos has wanted it for years. I mean, that's why he keeps having Dan off in the Washington Post nearly every week again. He owns the Washington Post, doesn't he? Bezos. So he's wanted it for a long time, and I just know Dan though. You know him as he's very, childish in ways. You've heard about the kind of was it the fish in the person in the what's called the owner's kind of sweet, thorns like dead fish and stuff like that. So it's really stink the place out. Just little things like that, it's like he's very, very childish. So I can just see him going, nah, I'm not selling to Bezos, no matter even if he offers me more money. Now I know the flip side, you'll say, well, an extra billion is an extra billion, compared to others, which is also true. But for him though? What's kind of he couldn't spend all that money anyway. So what's an extra billion to him? Nothing really.
Great point of view to look at that. And obviously today we've had some news out there again about the Attorney General of DC doing his press conference and looking to put a lawsuit against Dan Snyder, the Commanders, the NFL, and Roger Goodell. This is all pretty much over the report that was not written but was verbally seen, the Beth Wilkinson report. And obviously fans we've seen have clamoured for that report to be released. I know that the AG's office have been looking heavily at the practices of the Commanders and Dan Snyder for the last 6 months and have come under a lot of scrutiny. What were your thoughts, or did you take anything from that press conference, or did you just think it was a bit of a bluster?
Yeah, definitely a bit of a bluster, really. I mean, I think personally, how many lawsuits has he got now? I mean, I can't even remember how many he's got. That's how many he's got going on. So this one's just another one to the list. I think these guys are just trying to make some PR stunts. Don't forget was it the midterms recently?
So the midterms were this week, and they're still coming in now.
So all those things like that. That was always going to play, to get them in focus in the media, if that makes sense. So I think there's a bit of a play like that, and I also think that really, they can't prove anything because there's no report. So how can you say to me, you're lying? Well, prove it. And you can't prove it. So you're not going to get anywhere. So what's going to happen is you're just going to annoy Dan enough to go pay us out. That's what I think. I think they're just purely out for a cash or a grab at as new money that he's going to have.
It is the timing of it does stick in the throat a bit here. I look at that and think to myself, and by the way, we're not defending Dan Snyder, as you've just heard Andy speak quite regularly about that. I have exactly the same opinion. The sooner the better, really, that he sells the team in its entirety. I do think you're correct there. I think you're absolutely spot on with your assumption in the timings just don't seem right to me, that they've taken this 6-month period to look at Dan and the Commanders in general. And now all of a sudden, after 1 week of potentially being told, we're selling the team, and bringing Bank of America in to look to sell either part of the team or the team, suddenly it's, oh, we're going to do this press conference. It did, to me, when I watched it, look a bit like a bluff and bluster. I mean, for me, it's about restitution, but where does that restitution and that money go to? Is it going back to DC taxpayers? Is it going to, it's just a government call for cash, really, isn't it? It's a call for cash if we look at it that way. So anyway, moving on, Andy, from the news, that was our up and coming news there. We had a game last weekend against the Vikings. Now, I know our UK WhatsApp group goes a bit mad throughout the game, and I tend to try and stay off Twitter as much as possible during the game, and I know you do too. What were your thoughts then on the game? Have you got any positives that you can bring from it? And what have you got as negatives that you can bring from it?
Well, I mean, the positives is the defense. You know how well they're actually playing at the moment. They are playing lights out. I mean, I think I heard Bram talk about the defense recently on, I think it was on Kime's show, and he was saying, besides the first kind of thing, it was like 2 games in a quarter, so the last 4.5 games basically, we have been ranked number 2 in defense points against. That's pretty impressive considering that we were killing Jack. I was killing Jack Del Rio as well. At the start, like, this guy's awful. What's going on? And it's a fair play to him. He's actually turned it around. And I think I mentioned on other pods, but I think it's because he's off social media. He's actually concentrating more on his actual job, and the players are responding to him better because of that. Yeah.
Do you think that's it's funny that, isn't it, that we've seen this under Ron Rivera's tenureship and Jack Del Rio running that defense, that it seems to take us at least 4 games before we even start to look like a competitive defense. We're always, we're inherently slow starters for some reason, and it does seem like that. Absolutely, but I think the positive for me was the defense on Sunday last week. Jonathan Allen's realistically all-pro. He's playing at an all-pro level at the moment, and in my opinion, he's the best defensive tackle in the league right now. He really is. He's playing better than Aaron Donald. He's playing better than anyone else. I can't possibly think of anyone in the league that's having a better season than he is at the moment. And the same could be argued and said for Daron Payne. I mean, he's on his highest sack rates at the moment with 5.5 sacks for the season so far. And there's still, and we're halfway there. So where he goes, and where his ceiling will be, I have no idea. But clearly, he's in a roster. He's on a pay contract year. So let's just hope we get him paid some way or shape or form.
Well, let's face it. I mean, realistically, I think the money you're looking at for him, you're looking at around that kind of 17, 18 mil a year. I mean, it's a lot of money, and it's probably even slightly ahead of Allen. Do you know what I mean? So if you're doing that, it's risky, if you're going to pay him that kind of corn. And as I say, it has been his best season so far, after all the 5 years that he's been here. But I think he's playing to get away, personally. I think he's playing to get away.
Okay.
I don't think he wants to stick around. I mean, he's showing how good he is, yeah, great. But, and I'm quite happy to keep seeing that all season. But what you're going to see is, like, I just can't see us being able to. I think we obviously we can afford him, but because especially if we don't keep Wentz, we can afford him. But I think going forward, I just think that I've just got that feeling, he just doesn't want to be there. Do you know what I mean? Because he kind of felt disrespected last year, with the fight with Allen and stuff like that, which was just brothers having a go at each other, which is, that's what guys do, don't they? You know what I mean? And they are really brothers. They played all the way in college together as well, so they've been together for a long time, them two. So they really are probably are.
Yeah, so they will know each other inside out. Absolutely,
I know each other, and yeah,
you're spot on there completely. Anyone for you then that you think has come up as a negative, in a negative light? Arrows up, arrows down, we'll call this segment. So who's your arrows down then?
Plenty of arrows down, plenty of them, especially on the offensive line, bro. For offensive line, QB, shocking. I mean, Norwell, awful, genuinely bad, like really bad. It's like, how is this guy even an NFL pro player? Because, I've watched some film on him as well. Not just this game, but all season really. I mean, there's a guy I listen to, Tim's Tim in the States. He does very good film breakdowns about our games, like on the Tuesday after of the game. Really, really good, really in detail. I learned quite a lot from him actually. But it's kind of, you just don't see any real push from him. Like, he's out of position by only by like half a yard or whatever it is. But the thing is that makes Larson do something different, or makes the other. It's like a knock-on of domino effect, and it makes the whole line just look awful because of it. Doing the wrong gap, guy gets through, sacks the QB. You see what I mean? Stuff like that happening all the time, and also you can't like create any lanes for our running backs either. So he can't get to the second level. He can't push. He can't block the first guy and get off him and go forward and go to the next one. Where that is what Flowers and Scherf are excellent at. That's why the screen game was so good when we had them two playing at guard more than these two fools that we've got now, which is Norwell and Turner. Mate, awful. Honestly, them two just need to go.
If you are watching this on YouTube, you can clearly see Scouse's passion here for the offensive line. I think suit him up tomorrow is in my opinion.
I'll probably do a better job, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe, absolutely. Yeah, one arrow down for me is going to be Taylor Heinicke, just for the week. I think the big occasion and the fact that he knew if he would probably win that game. And by all means, our defense kept us in that game to the very end. It kind of almost shit the bed, if you like, if you want to put it into our phrases of terms. He didn't look himself or look like the player that we've known, but we've seen Taylor for all of last season, pretty much, and a couple of games already this season. And it just didn't work for him. It was one of them days where it just didn't work for him. I fully appreciate we all have an off day. This is their job, we expect better really from that.
But this is why he's a backup, though, isn't it? This is why he's a backup. He's good enough in fits and starts. You know what I mean? Like a couple of games here and there, yeah, great. You know what I mean? You can pull out some bags, some quick tricks. That spin move on somebody was unbelievable. Better than some of the RBs can do it. Unbelievable. But
it looked like a Madden cheat code when he did that, didn't it? It did.
Like he was playing Madden, didn't he? What I mean? Like, it was great. But besides that, he was shocking. I mean, he really was bad. But again, he didn't feel confident in himself. I think that's on Scott Turner, personally. He made him play a pocket passing game again, like he did the game before, and he shouldn't have been, because this guy is a guy who is better on the run, basically. He's fast enough to get out to the outside. Why aren't we using actually design plays to roll them out to the sides? Like you see Kyler Murray do that because he's small, Heinicke's small. Do you see what I mean? These guys doing that all the time. Russell Wilson as well was always doing that, and it wasn't always because they had bad offensive lines, which surely they do, to be honest. But their skill set was to get out of the pocket and launch a deep ball. Do you see what I mean? So why aren't we doing that with him? It's Scott Turner's arrogance.
Yeah,
that's what I think, and it's ruining Taylor's confidence, and that's why he was shocking this week.
I fully agree with you. For me, I've been on other pods and heard other people talk about it, and we'll say it here on our pod. Scott Turner can leave, immediately. Get him on the first flight out of here. It's very difficult.
I'd drive him anyway. Wants to go, as long as it's not Washington. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. I get you completely. The play calling, and it seems like these 15 play calls that they have at the start, where we have to settle into the game, and he uses these unique 15 plays to tell what's going on. They're not working. It's always the same, and you can't. And you
the
can't.
Defense is just reading this straight away.
Absolutely.
First down, run. Okay. Yeah. Second down, throw. Does he see it all the time?
Does he think that other teams don't watch film? Because he must do.
I think he's just in his own cuckoo land. I think his own cloud cuckoo land. He's just a nightmare.
Well, quite clearly, going down to the sideline to call the plays didn't help any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, he went back upstairs, didn't he? Because he realised he was shocking.
Yeah. So for me, he was a definite arrow down for the week. So we'll move on then, and we'll move on to Monday Night Football. The Monday Night Lights, early doors for us, 1:30 a.m. kickoff. Have you got Tuesday booked off work is the first question.
The answer is no. Not this time. It's going to be painful for me, bro.
That is going to be a long night.
Are you off?
I'm off on Tuesday. Yeah, I booked it off well in advance.
Smart play.
Smart move. Yeah. Take the smart move. Pray for Andy, everyone. Get some
Red Bull down me. That's how it's going to work.
Absolutely. So what are your thoughts going into Philadelphia then and playing the 8-0 Philadelphia Eagles? Or 9-0. Sorry, are they 8-0? No,
they are
8-0.
Yeah,
8-0. They've had a bye week.
I think they've had a bye week, haven't they? Yeah, so undefeated, going to their backyard. We're lucky that Wentz isn't playing. That's one thing. That's one bonus you could say, because I think the crowd there will just absolutely eat him alive. Absolutely eat him alive. Heineke's probably is still going to feel it. Don't get me wrong, but it would have been a lot worse if it was Wentz behind on the center. So at least that's one good thing, that he is injured for that game. But I just can't see us getting anywhere near them, to be fair. Normally I'm always a guy, we always find the ways to win, we find things, but with this game, we're just going to get hammered. It's not even going to be close. We'll try and run the ball, but again, I mentioned before about the offensive line, they've got no push, they can't get into the second level, and that's Philly's weakness on their D, because their team is star-studded, really. It's clashed throughout the whole offense and defense. Even special teams are pretty good as well for them. So, they've got a really new enough a complete team. And the slight weakness they do have is up the middle, run at them. We're not going to be able to do that. We're going to try it, but we're going to get nowhere because our offensive line can't produce the push, can't produce the gaps. So you're going to see, Robinson and Thing getting hit at the line of scrimmage, and then they're going to get either minus or just 1 or 2 yards max.
That's really disappointing for me. Is we're watching Robinson, who is by all accounts and looks like a very capable back. He's averaging 2.5 yards a carry. It's really not good. It's really not a good.
Do you blame him? Don't forget, in the preseason, before he got shot, yes, but his vision was excellent. He found gaps. He ran through them. You know what I mean? But since he's been back, there's been no gaps. So is it vision as in there's no gaps, or is it vision just because the offensive line are just too crap in front of him to actually create anything for him? So he's just getting hit straight away.
I think it's a bit of everything, really. I think it's a bit of play calling. I think it's a bit of the offensive line being poor, and being, we've had 7 different maturations of the offensive line. People are continually injured. Larson has made a difference coming back in at center. That's clearly obvious. But I don't think we have a settled offensive line where we are at the moment, or what we would like to play there. And I also think that the sharing of carries is a good thing for Antonio Gibson. It's made Antonio Gibson's fumbling problem, with a bit of luck, I'll touch wood here, has seemed to have disappeared completely. And we seem to be seeing the Antonio Gibson we had a couple of seasons ago. But we're just, as you said, we're not getting that push up the middle to allow the running backs to run forward and rip off a big run. We're just not getting that at all. So do you see there's any ways or keys to victory, or any way at all that we can pull something a rabbit out of the hat, if you want to say, in this game?
We've got to be perfect, basically. We have to play perfect complementary football. If we don't, we've got no chance. We need to get turnovers in D, and we need to get a few of them, 3 or 4 maybe, which is a lot to ask. Obviously we need to keep these guys down to about 24 points if we can. But even then, our offense only averages 17 per game. So, so it's gonna be, you're not going to keep Philly down under 17 points. There's just no chance. You're looking at 24, 27, something like that. You're probably realistically getting with them.
Yeah, especially if you look at their wide receivers are fantastic, and Hurts is proving himself to be that franchise quarterback that they wanted.
I still don't.
No, I don't rate him. I still don't rate him.
A glorified running back personally, but yes, he is throwing some better balls. But in the saying that, he has got an elite receiver who is an absolute beast. AJ Brown. So, and they've known each other for a long time. I think they played together at college as well. So they know that instant chemistry was there after a couple of weeks when he first got there. You know what I mean? So, just learning just the different route concepts. But besides that, instant chemistry, because they've already had it for years beforehand, and a good friend, but I think the best friend as well, actually. So that kind of leaves us in a world of pain from that side of things. Offense, I mean, we need to use tight ends more. We've got to use the tight ends more. We've got to use the tight end screens, man. Rodgers looking decent when he gets them, but he only gets one attempt every game. I don't understand why you're not using them more. I mean, Thomas he doesn't look match fit. He doesn't look like he's the old Thomas before the injury. And
I kind of thought Scott Turner forgot. I kind of thought Scott Turner forgot he was on the team. Didn't even get a look at all against Minnesota. So
the time he did. That's what That's where Taylor sailed it miles over his head and got picked.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's it. You see, so obviously them two just don't have the timing down at all. It's hard, man, because we've got to get Terry the ball. That's the other thing as well. That's one of the other keys. Terry the ball all the time, not just no. Look. If you look back at the Minnesota game, first drive, 4 catches from Jefferson. In the first drive, leading to a touchdown. He got his best players involved early. End of story. And that's what you need. That's what you got to do. There was, I think it was late in the quarter as well, late in the game when we got picked. What did he do? He went to the 3 best players. He went Jefferson. He went Hawkinson. He went Cook. Yeah, and that's all they were doing, just changing all it up. Some running plays, some kind of jet sweep stuff like that. Why aren't we doing that? Curtis Samuel had a 16-yard run right up the middle. Great. And it was brilliant protection because I actually saw it. Brilliant protection for once, right? From the old line. Perfect gap. Bang. 16-yard run. And we never see him again. What's going on? Why is Tim Turner going back to the same plays that are actually working at that time? I'm like, if it works, keep doing it until you stop it. And then I'll change it up.
Yeah, it's questionable adjustments throughout the games, and we've seen
so
that.
Bad.
We've seen that all season, haven't we?
It's just so bad, Scott Turner, man. So bad.
Questionable adjustments. So on a slightly different topic, then, if you see what we both think is going to happen, and we both think we're not winning this Philadelphia game, and we both think it's not going to be close at all, do we see that the coaching staff go back to Carson Wentz? What are your thoughts on the QB situation for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's a tough one, man, because this is where Ron's going to have to earn his money, because this is one where it can't be Taylor for the rest of the season. It just can't be. So it's either going to be Wentz or it's going to be Howell. But that's the hard part, because we don't know when Wentz is actually ready. That's the other thing as well. Okay, he comes back off IR next week or whatever, but we don't know if he's ready to throw or to play. We could be another couple of weeks after that before he's actually available. So, okay, so what do you do then? Do you stick with Heineke? If you lose this game, what are we? We're going to be 4-6, aren't we?
4
We're
and
going to
6.
be 4 and 6.
Yeah.
So 4 and 6. So we're two games below 500, and you're thinking, it's not over, but it's getting pretty close.
Yeah.
The
NFC this year is wild. It's absolutely wild that we're still even in a chance.
If we can somehow, because we got winnable games after this one, we've got Houston, we've got Atlanta, even though they're actually top of the league at the moment, Atlanta, but poor record. They're not a very good side. We've got a couple of good players, but most of it, we can deal with that. That's a winnable game. If we win them, back to 6 and 6, and then if we lose this game, that is. We're back on track. We're only 1 game out of 7th place on the seeds at the moment. Which is insane, really, considering that we've been, pretty bang average. Even the games we've won, we've just held on.
Yeah, I agree completely with you there, Scouse. It's one of them where the NFC and even the NFL overall, really, this year hasn't had any amazing superstar teams. Like you would always see generally in every season, there'll be 2 or 3 teams out there who are way up above. The only one at the moment you would suggest would be the Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously, being the only undefeated team left. But there's no real superstar teams out there, the likes of your Chargers, your Rams, your Buccaneers. They've all been very, very poor this year.
All underperformed massively.
Yeah,
and that could be down to injuries. Sure,
it could be.
There's definitely injuries in all of them. We all have injuries. It's all about the biggest squad and who's got the best squads, really, more than actually the best first team. But yeah, you're right. But again, with the Bills, Josh Allen struggling. I think he's going to be out a few weeks. I think that's going to make a big difference to the Bills. And Bills have lost a few games as well. So they're not this all singing, all dancing team like probably were last year or the year before. Same with the Chiefs. See, the only ones who are looking okay at like slightly above average are the ones with the good quarterbacks. Even like in Minnesota, they're 7. Are they 7-1 now?
7-1 now.
7-1 now. Now again, you could say we should have beat them. We had them. We should have won. Well, we blew it at the end. That's our fault because bad teams find a way to lose, and that's us. Whereas, so a 7-1 team, and we were that close to beating them, you could go, well, maybe we can go into Philly and do something, but they're just a different animal. They're a much better team, I think, personally, than the Vikings are.
So that's a great segue then onto what we have classed here as our game of the week. And before we started recording, we picked our game of the week throughout the NFL, and our game of the week is the Buffalo Bills versus the Minnesota Giants at Minnesota. So what are your thoughts on this
Minnesota
game?
Vikings, you mean? Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, that's what I said, yeah. Vikings.
You'll find out. It's the Giants, mate. You said Giants.
Did I say Giants?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. We all make mistakes.
Yeah, of course we do, mate. No worries. But yeah, go on. What do you think? What do you think's going to win? Who's going to win that one?
Yeah, for me, I think this is going to be a tough game for both sides. Obviously, it depends on the health of Josh Allen a lot. That Allen to Diggs has been the go-to duo this year. They've also got a really good running game as well. Have Buffalo and an exceptional defense. The back end of their defense, their secondary is probably the best in the NFL. Looking at that, and they've got good pass rushers in Von Miller. So, yeah, for me, I can see this as a squeaking win by a field goal for the Bills. What are you going with it, Scouse?
Yeah. Again, it's all about Josh Allen. This one. If he's playing, even if he plays, I mean, he's meant to have a really bad elbow. He's meant to have torn a ligament in his elbow or something like that. So if he's playing with it, they're either going to be jabbing them up. So he's got like no painkiller injection to play, which obviously doesn't help him long term at all, by the way. But if he plays, are they going to limit him snap count? Are they going to limit his throwing ability? Are they going to say, well, okay, we're only going to throw it maybe like 10, 12 times in a match and run the rest of it? You know what I mean? Or weird and wonderful like running plays that he can come up with. No, go into the box of tricks. Could be that. Personally, because I think Minnesota have a healthier team. I think Minnesota are going to nick it. I think they're going to nick it. But again, it'll be close. I think by a point or something like that, 2 points. Yeah, I think it's going to be like 31-28, something like that, 31-29. Mm-hmm.
So we've got 5 minutes or so left of this of this inaugural pod. And again, thank you for joining us on this one. And we're going to go into a section which we have coined as Scouse's Sizzle. This is where Scouse Andy Lockhart will give us his rundown on something that has frustrated him within the Washington Commanders land this week. So take it away, brother.
Well, I mean, I think I've already kind of rambled on earlier on about certain things, to be fair, but that really annoyed me. But it still has to be it's still got to be Scott Turner. It just has to be Scott Turner. I mean, also Matsko as well. I mean, Matsko has been a guy who's been labelled some sort of offensive line genius. Especially last season, year before, you know, he can make anybody plug and play, and it would work. Like everything he touches turns to gold. You know, this season it hasn't. But again, he's got a lot less talent. So again, it's like, what is it? Is it poor coaching from them? Is it, or he's trying to get them to do things that they just can't do because they're just not good enough? You know, so, or is it just they're just not good enough, and that's the end of that? You know, so it's, for me, the biggest annoyance of all of it is Scott Turner. Can't stand the dude. I think he's just not. He just doesn't have any in-game awareness of what he should be doing at the right times. I mean, you know, he's even putting his dad's name to shame, man. Honestly, just can't. I don't know what to say really, because I think I said it earlier about him. But yeah, I mean, absolutely awful. I want him gone. I'd drive him anywhere he wants to go. Leave. The good news is we've got with him is that even though he got this new contract extension, I was looking up this, he has got an actual out at the end of the season, as in like, so we can probably get rid of him like for free, you know what I mean? Or very, very low, compensation anyway. So he's gone. It'd be great if he went now rather than the end of the season, but yeah.
And that, everybody, was Scouse's Sizzle. So we'll finish it up there then, and we just want to say again, thank you for joining us on the 1 Point Safety Show with Scouse and Scott. You can catch us on our social media. This will be posted on YouTube. It will be posted on everywhere that you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere else that you get this through. Make sure you subscribe, you like the channel on YouTube, and you download our content. I've been one of your hosts, your co-host, Scott Hartley. You can find me on social media at ScottyH84. And Scouse, if you want to just promote your socials as well.
Yeah, I'm class as Scouse Andy 20 on Twitter.
All right, everybody, that'll do us. And we'll see you again next week for another episode of the 1 Point Safety Show.